Chapter 104. The unhappy Wei Yan did not suffer the edge of the sword, for Zhu Liang stayed the stroke, saying, "It is my fate, not his fault." So Jiang Wei put up his sword. Zhu Liang spat a few mouthfuls of blood, then sank wearily upon his couch. Said he, "Sima, he thinks I am dead," and he sent these few troops to make sure. "Go and drive them off." Wei Yan left the tent and led out a small party to drive away the troops of Wei, who fled as they appeared. He chased them to more than 7 miles and returned. Then Zhu Liang sent Wei Yan to his own camp and bade him keep a vigilant lookout. Presently Jiang Wei came in, went up to the sick man's couch and asked how he felt. Zhu Liang replied, "My death is very near. My chief desire has been to spend myself to the utmost to restore Han to its glory and to regain the Middle Land. But heaven decrees it otherwise. My end is not far away. I have written a book in 24 chapters, 104,112 words, treating the 8 needfuls, the 7 cautions, the 6 fears, and the 5 dreads of war. But among all those about me there is no one fit to receive it and carry on my work save you. I pray you not to despise it." He gave the treatise to Jiang Wei, who received it sobbing. "I have also a plan for a multiple crossbow, which I have been unable to execute. The weapon shoots 10 bolts of 8 inches length at every discharge. The sketches are quite ready, and the weapons can be made according to them." Jiang Wei took the papers with a deep bow. The dying man continued, "There is no part of Shu that causes anxiety, save the Yinping Mountains. That must be carefully guarded. It is protected naturally by its lofty precipices, but it will surely be the cause of great losses." Next Zhu Liang sent for Ma Dai, to whom he gave certain whispered instructions, and then said, "You are to follow out my instructions after my death." Soon after, Yang Yi entered the tent and went to the couch. He received a silken bag containing certain secret orders. As Zhu Liang gave it to him, he said, "After my death, Wei Yan will turn traitor. When that happens and the army is in danger, you will find herein what to do." Just as these arrangements were finished, Zhu Liang fell into a swoon, from which he did not revive till late in the evening. Then he set himself to compose a memorial to the latter ruler. When this reached the latter ruler, he was greatly alarmed, and at once sent Chief Secretary Lai Fu to visit and confer with the dying minister. Lai Fu travelled quickly to the Wajing Hills and was led to the tent of the commander-in-chief. He delivered the latter ruler's command and inquired after the sick man's welfare. Zhu Liang wept, and he replied, "Unhappily I am dying and leaving my task incomplete. I am injuring my country's policy and am in fault to the world. After my death you must aid the emperor in perfect loyalty and see that the old policy is continued and the rules of government maintained. Do not lightly cast out the people I have employed. My plans of campaign have been confided to Jiang Wei, who can continue my policy for the service of the state. But my hour draws near, and I must write my testament." Lai Fu listened, and then took his leave. Zhu Liang made one final effort to carry out his duties. He rose from his couch, was helped into a small carriage, and thus made a round of inspection of all the camps and posts. But the cold autumn wind chilled him to the bone. "I shall never again lead the army against the rebels," said he. "O Azure Heaven, when will this regret end?" Zhu Liang returned to his tent. He became rapidly weaker, and called Yang Yi to his bedside. Said he, "Ma Dai, Wang Ping, Liu Hu of Zhang Yi Jiangnai may be depended on to the death. They have fought many campaigns and borne many hardships. They should be retained in the public service. After my death let everything go on as before, but the army is to be gradually withdrawn. You know the tactics to be followed, and I need say little. My friend Jiang Wei is wise and brave, set him to guard the retreat." Yang Yi received these orders weeping. Next, writing materials were brought in, and the dying minister set himself to write his testament. It is here given in substance. "Life and death are the common lot, and fate cannot be evaded. Death is at hand, and I desire to prove my loyalty to the end. I, thy servant Zhu Liang, dull of parts, was born into a difficult age, and it fell to my lot to guide military operations. I led a northern expedition, but failed to win complete success. Now sickness has laid hold upon me, and death approaches, so that I shall be unable to accomplish my task. My sorrow is inexpressible. I desire your majesty to cleanse your heart and limit your desires, to practice self-control and love the people, to maintain a perfectly filial attitude toward your late father, and to be benevolent to all the world. Seek out the recluse scholars that you may obtain the services of the wise and good. Repel the wicked and depraved that your moral standard may be exalted. To my household belong 800 mulberry trees and 100 acres of land, thus there is ample provision for my family. While I have been employed in the service of the state, my needs have been supplied from official sources, but I have not contrived to make any additions to the family estate. At my death I shall not leave any increased possessions, even an excess roll of silk that may cause your majesty to suspect that I have wronged you. Having composed this document, the dying man turned again to Yang Li, saying, Do not wear mourning for me, but make a large coffer, and therein place my body, with 7 grains of rice in my mouth. Place a lamp at my feet, and let my body move with the army as I was wont to do. If you refrain from mourning, then my leadership star will not fall, for my inmost soul will ascend and hold it in place. So long as my star retains its place, Sima Yi will be fearsome and suspicious. Let the army retreat, beginning with the rearmost division, send it away slowly, 1 camp at a time. If Sima Yi pursues, array the army and offer battle, turn to meet him and beat the attack. Let him approach till he is very near, then suddenly display the wooden image of myself that I have had carved, seated in my chariot in the midst of the army, with the generals right and left as usual, and you will frighten Sima Yi away. Yang Li listened to these words intently. The knight Zhu Jiang was carried into the open and gazed up at the sky. That is my star, said he, pointing to one that seemed to be losing its brilliancy and to be tottering in its place. Zhu Jiang's lips moved as if he muttered a spell. Presently he was borne into his tent and for a time was oblivious of all about him. When the anxiety caused by this state of coma was at its height, Lai Fu arrived. He wept when he saw the condition of the great leader, crying, I have foiled the great designs of the state. However, presently Zhu Jiang's eyes reopened and fell upon Lai Fu standing near his couch. I know your mission, said Zhu Jiang. I came with the royal command to ask also who should control the destinies of the state for the next century, replied Lai Fu. In my agitation I forgot to ask that. After me, Zhong Wan is the most fitting man to deal with great matters. And after Zhong Wan, after him Fei Yi. Who is next after Fei Yi? No reply came, and when they looked more carefully, they perceived that the soul of the Prime Minister had passed. Thus died Zhu Jiang, and the 23rd day of the 8th month in the 12th year beginning prosperity, at the age of 50, and 4 AD 234, the poet Du Fu wrote some verses on his death. A bright star last night falling from the sky. This message gave the master is no more. No more in camp shall bold men tramp at his command. At court no statesman ever will fill the place he held. At home his clients miss their patron kind. Sad for the army, who are lonely in this world. In the greenwood stones and creeks are crying. No more of his lute birds have hushed singing. And by Zhu also wrote a poem. Within the forest dim the master lived obscure, till thrice returning there the prince his mentor met. As when a fish the ocean gains, desire was filled. Only the dragon freed could soar aloft at will. As king's son's guardian none more zealous was. As minister, most loyally he wrought at court. His war memorials still to us are left, and reading them the tears unconscious fall. Now in past days, Commander Liu Lai in Changshui had a high opinion of his own abilities and thought himself perfectly fitted to be Zhu Jiang's second. So he neglected the duties of his proper post, showed discontent and indiscipline, and was constantly slandering the minister. Thereupon Zhu Jiang degraded him and transferred him to Pinyin. When Liu Lai heard of Zhu Jiang's death, he shed tears and said then, After all, I shall remain a barbarian. Lai Yan also grieved deeply at the sad tidings, for he had always hoped that Zhu Jiang would restore him to office and so give him the opportunity of repairing his former faults. After Zhu Jiang had died, he thought there was no hope of re-employment, and so he died. Another poet, Yuan Weizhe, also wrote in praise of the great adviser. He fought disorder, helped a weak king. Most zealously he kept his master's son. In statecraft he excelled Guanzhong Yu Yi. In warcraft he overpassed Wu Kai, Sun Zai, With all the court his war memorials heard. With majesty his 8 arrays were planned. Virtue and wisdom both filled in his heart. For 1,000 autumns his fame would still stay. Heaven grieved and earth mourned on the night of Zhu Zhiang's death. Even the moon was dimmed as Zhu Zhiang's soul returned to heaven. As the late commander had directed, Jiang Wei and Yang Yi forbade the mourning of his death. His body was placed in the coffer as he had wished, and 300 of his trusted leaders and soldiers were appointed to watch it. Secret orders were given to Wei Yan to command the rear guard, and then one by one the camps were broken up and the army began its homeward march. Sima Yi watched the skies. One night a large red star with bright rays passed from the northeast to the southwest and dropped over the camps of Shu. It dipped thrice and rose again. Sima Yi heard also a low rumbling in the distance. He was pleased and excited, and said to those about him, "Zhu Zhiang is dead." At once he ordered pursuit with a strong force. But just as he passed his camp gates, doubts filled his mind, and he gave up the plan. Zhu Zhiang is a master of mysteries. He can get aids from the deities of the 6 layers. It may be that this is but a ruse to get us to take the field. We may fall victims to his guile. So he halted, but he sent Xiao Bao with a few dozen scouts to reconnoiter the enemy's camps. One night as Wei Yan lay asleep in his tent, he dreamed a dream. In his vision 2 horns grew out of his head. When he awoke he was much perplexed to explain his dream. Marching General Zhao Zhai came to see him, and Wei Yan said, "You are versed in the Book of Changes. I have dreamed that 2 horns grew upon my head and would trouble you to expound the dream and tell me its portent." Zhao Zhai thought a moment and replied, "It is an auspicious dream. Dragon and Jilin both have horns on the head. It augurs transformation into an ascending creature." Wei Yan, much pleased, said, "If the dream proves true as you said, I will thank you with very generous gifts." Zhao Zhai left, and presently met Fei Yi, who asked whence he came. "From the camp of our friend Wei Yan. He dreamed that he grew horns upon his head, and I have given him an auspicious interpretation. But really it is inauspicious. However, I did not wish to annoy him." "How do you know it is inauspicious?" "The word for horn is composed of 2 parts, knife above and use below, and so means that there is a knife upon his head. It is a terrible omen." "Keep it secret," said Fei Yi. Then Fei Yi went to the camp of Wei Yan, and when they were alone he said, "The Prime Minister died last night in the 3rd watch. He left certain final orders, and among them, that you are to command the rear guard to keep Sima Yi at bay while the army retreats. No warning is to be worn. Here's your authority, so you can march forthwith." "Who is acting in place of the late minister?" asked Wei. "The chief command has been delegated to Yang Yi, but the secret plans of campaign have been entrusted to Jiang Wei. This authority was issued from Yang Yi." Wei Yan replied, "Though the Prime Minister is dead, I am yet alive. Councillor Yang Yi is only a civil officer and unequal to this post. He ought to conduct the coffin home while I lead the army against Sima Yi. I shall achieve success, and it is wrong to abandon a whole plan of campaign because of the death of one man, even if it be the Prime Minister." The Prime Minister's orders were to retire, and these orders are to be obeyed. If the Prime Minister had listened to me, we should now have been at Chang'an. I am the Van leader, general, who conquers the West and Lord of Nanjing. I am not going to act as rearguard for any civil official," said Wei Yan, angry. "It may be as you say, General, but you must not do anything to make us ridiculous. Let me go back to Yang Yi and explain, and I may be able to persuade him to pass on to you the supreme military authority he holds." Wei Yan agreed, and Fei Yi went back to the main camp and told Yang Yi what had passed. Yang Yi replied, "When near death the Prime Minister confided to me that Wei Yan would turn traitor. I sent him the authority to test him, and now he has discovered himself as the Prime Minister foretold. So I will direct Jiang Wei to command the rear guard." The coffer containing the remains of Zhu Zhiang was sent on in advance, and Jiang Wei took up his post to cover the retreat. Meanwhile Wei Yan sat in his tent waiting for the return of Fei Yi, and was perplexed at the delay. When the suspense became unbearable, he sent Ma Dai to find out the reason. Ma Dai returned and told him Jiang Wei is covering the retreat and that most of the army has already gone. Wei Yan was furious. How dare he play with me, the pedantic blockhead? cried he. "But he shall die for this." Turning to Ma Dai, Wei Yan said, "Will you help me?" Ma Dai replied, "I have long hated Yang Yi. Certainly I am ready to attack him." So Wei Yan broke camp and marched southward. By the time Xiahou Ba had reached the Shu camps, they were all empty, and he hastened back with this news. "Then Zhu Jiang is really dead." "Let us pursue," said Sima Yi, much irritated at being misled. "Be cautious," said Xiahou Ba. "Send and subordinate leader first." "No, I must go myself this time." So Sima Yi and his 2 sons hastened to the Wajing Hills. With shouts and waving flags, they rushed into the camps only to find them quite deserted. Sima Yi said to his sons, "You are to bring up the remaining force with all speed, whereas I will lead the vanguard." Sima Yi hastened in the wake of the retreating army. Coming to some hills, he saw them in the distance and pressed on still harder. Then suddenly a bomb exploded. A great shout broke the stillness, and the retiring army turned about and came toward him, ready for battle. In their midst fluttered a great banner bearing the words, "Prime Minister of Han, Lord of Wuxing, Zhu Jiang." Sima Yi stopped, pale with fear. Then out from the army came some score of generals of rank, and they were escorting a small carriage, in which sat Zhu Jiang as he had always appeared, in his hand the feather fan. "Then Zhu Jiang is still alive," gasped Sima Yi, "and I have rashly placed myself in his power." As he pulled round his horse to flee, Jiang Wei shouted, "Do not try to run away, O rebel. You have fallen into one of the Prime Minister's traps, and had better stay." The soldiers, seized with panic, fled, throwing off all their gear. They trampled each other down, and many perished. Their leader galloped 15 miles without pulling rein. When at last 2 of his generals came up with him and had stopped his flying steed by catching at the bridle, Sima Yi clapped his hand to his head, crying, "Have I still a head?" "Do not fear, Commander. The soldiers of Shu are now far away," they replied. But he still panted with fear, and only after some time did he recognize that his 2 companions were Xiahou Ba and Xiahou Hui. The 3 found their way by roads to their own camp, whence scouts were sent out in all directions. In a few days the natives brought news that the Shu army had really gone, and as soon as the retiring army entered the valley they raised a wailing for the dead and hoisted white flags. Zhu Jiang was really dead, and Jiang Wei's rearguard consisted of only 1,000 troops. The figure in the carriage was only a wooden image of the Prime Minister. "While he lived, I could guess what he would do. Dead, I was helpless," said Sima Yi. "The people had a saying that a dead Zhu Jiang can scare off a live Sima Yi." In the depth of night a brilliant star fell from the northern sky. Doubt stayed Sima Yi. When he would pursue his dead but fearsome enemy. And even now the Western people, with scornful smile, will say, "Oh, is my head on my shoulder still? It was nearly lost today." Now indeed Sima Yi knew that his rival was no more, so he retook the pursuit. But when he reached the Red Hills, the Shu army had marched too far away. As he took the homeward road, he said to his officers, "We can now sleep in comfort." As they marched back, they saw the camps of their enemies, and were amazed at their skillful arrangement. "Truly a wonderful genius," sighed Sima Yi. The armies of Wei returned to Chang'an. Leaving officers to guard the various strategic points, Sima Yi himself went on to Luoyang to see the audience. Yang Yi and Jiang Wei retired slowly and in good order till they neared the plank trail, when they donned mourning garb and began to wail for their dead. The soldiers threw themselves on the ground and wailed in sorrow. Some even wailed themselves to death. But as the leading companies entered upon the plank trail, they saw a great blaze in front, and with a great shout a cohort came out barring the way. The leaders of the retreating army were taken aback and sent to inform Yang Yi. "The regiments of Wei are nowhere near." "Then who are these soldiers that now appear?" The next chapter will tell who they were.